All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to AAC What's New, What's Next. We are so excited. My name is Mai Ling Chan, and I say we because I have a whole team of people at Cognition watching this and really excited about today's interview with Chris Bugaj. So, without further ado, let's bring on our guest. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Mei Ling? Good to see you.
So good to see you too, Chris. How are you doing?
All right. I'm hanging in there. How about you?
Well, Arizona's numbers are increasing, but we're not going to talk about that now. Where are you located?
Northern Virginia, but actually I'm in my closet right now. I always record out of the closet. So,
I
but
know
yeah,
when everyone had to do the work at home, stay at home type of thing, I think you were probably one of the few people that felt that ramp up stage, right? Because you've been doing this for a while.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I have friends all over the country. I do a podcast with a co-host that lives in California. So I'm very comfortable in this space. It was getting everyone else comfortable in this space.
Exactly. And that's how I know you, an absolute leader in the educational technology space. But before we get there, could you give us a little background on what you do and how you got to this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is a speech language pathologist. I graduated as a speech language pathologist and I have my degree in that. But 3 years after starting my career as a speech therapist, I was asked to be part of the founding member of our assistive technology team in our local public schools, which is Loudoun County Public Schools in Northern Virginia. And so I've been on the assistive technology team ever since. I'm currently the assistive technology specialist for Loudoun County Public Schools. So there's kind of me. I have a supervisor and director and a whole people that I work with. But then I have a whole team that I work with of specialized instructional facilitators for assistive technology that work for our entire school district.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. And
Oh,
so,
and then, yeah, oh, sorry, I was just going to add that that's what I do for the day job. But then outside of that, I do podcasting. I've done something called the AT Tips Cast. I've written a couple of books. The first one was The Practical and Fun Guide to Assistive Technology in Public Schools, and that was with Sally Norton Dar. And then this most recent book, The New Assistive Tech, Make Learning Awesome for All, that's my solo venture. Both are published by ISTE, which is the International Society for Technology and Education. So yeah, I write books, I do podcasts. I do my most recent podcast, like I just mentioned, is with Rachel Madel, and we do the Talking with Tech podcast under the Exceptional Ed Network. You may have heard of it. Um, and so that's what I'm up to.
that's so podcasting is something that was so new to the industry. When you first started, how did you really embrace this like really new technology in the AAC space?
Yeah, so I've been doing podcasting since maybe 2008 or so with the AT Tips Cast, and there was maybe one other assistive technology podcast at the time, nothing specific to AAC. There was a handful of maybe speech therapists who were dabbling in it, and over time, it's one of those things that kind of took a slow roll, like. People found their way to it, but there was some confusion about it way back then because it was like it came out the same time as an iPod, if you remember those things. And so
Right.
it was like, yes, you can listen to podcasts on an iPod, but do I need an iPod? Like, there's all confusion about it, and you don't clearly. And now with most people having phones, you can get podcasts, and it is kind of exploded where there's just a plethora of podcasts you can listen to. And ours, the Talking with Tech podcast, is sort of maybe the first one that was exclusive to AAC, Augmentative Alternative Communication. But now there's certainly more that are talking about at least speech therapy and have different takes on it. So I
Right.
feel like it's a great platform for professional development. I've heard some Zoom fatigue recently. How many times
Yes.
we're doing these
Zoomed out.
Zoom. Yeah, you are zoomed out. Exactly. But you go for a walk, you plug your earphones in, and now you're listening, and you can still be learning. You can still be engaged. You can still be part of a community, and be empowered to do something with your knowledge to change the world for the better.
Just fantastic, Chris. You've always been a leader in this space, and I know that with the pandemic and the stay-at-home and shelter-in-place, a lot of our educators had to now understand and use and employ technology, and a lot of them had been holding out, right? And so I know I've been keeping in touch with you. So I'm going to ask you, because this is the target of our show, what is new with what's going on in the AAC space and technology?
Yeah, well, so I think with some a nice silver lining. It's hard to kind of look at silver linings because there's a tragedy going on with the pandemic and people actually losing their lives. But if you're looking for a silver lining for this whole scenario, it's that there has been a move to coaching rather than direct instruction. Now, the first, I think, especially as speech therapist, when everyone went to closures, was like, how am I going to do what I was doing in my classroom? How was I going to do what I was doing in my school in this remote space? Which maybe is the wrong question to ask. You don't want to try and just replicate what you were doing. You want to ask, what can this technology do so I can do it differently?
Yes.
Parallel to that, we have coaching that was taking, I mean, there wasn't enough people talking about it. There was maybe Jill Center and Matt Baud were talking about coaching. They're two kind of famous names in the field. There was Gail Bowser was talking about coaching. There's a handful of people that were maybe even doing job embedded coaching in their school districts. But as soon as, and certainly not enough talking about coaching with families, directly to families. So when we went to the closures, the immediate question was, well, geez, could we be doing coaching with the families? Maybe before it was like 80% direct instruction and 10% coaching, or maybe even 90% direct instruction and 10% coaching. But now it was like this thought came upon everybody like, if I'm not going to do direct instruction, or this student is not necessarily great at this direct instruction over this internet, video conferencing platform, then maybe what we could do is bring the parents in and we could coach them. And now I think what you see is that complete shift. Like, can we do 80% to 90% working with the parents and coaching them through what to do, and only 10%, okay, this I really need the kid to do directly with the kid. And that is we're going to see greater gains there. I think we've already started to see that with coaching in general. When you spend more time working with the communication partners and teaching them what to do, you have better outcomes for the actual communication users, the device users.
Absolutely. So then this empowerment of whether it's the educator or the speech therapist, how are you bridging the gap for the person who's now going to be the communication partner, the main communication partner? How are you bridging the gap for them to understand, the language platform that they're using, the modeling? So I'm thinking about Matt Baud and Jill Center was put me in coach, right? Making them the coach now, and then also model, right? So how are we getting that information that we have as speech language pathologists, assistive technology experts? How do we get that there?
Well, I think one of the very first things there is that there's of course videos and podcasts that you could listen to, or that you can give parents so they can get the idea of what we're talking about. Like the very first idea is that, oh, I'm the one that's supposed to be pushing the buttons, right? Okay, well, that's an easy enough concept to tell somebody and for them to understand. They can wrap their brains around it. The doing it is the hard part. The actual, like, oh, this is what riding a bike is? Here, let me show you a video of riding a bike. Okay, I've got the concept of riding a bike, but getting on and pedaling and steering, that takes some skill and practice. And it really, you need a coach. You need someone behind you going, what do you think about what happened if you tried to pedal a little bit faster? Oh, maybe I'd be a little bit scarier, but maybe I would be able to steer easier. Yeah, exactly. And so the shift, and that is not necessarily something most speech therapists were trained to do, or educators really to do. They're used to doing direct therapy, direct instruction, but the idea is with the parents, is to give more leading questions. So maybe I'll model for a second. I'll read a story and I'll show you, parent, okay, now it's your turn. You read a story. Maybe even take a video of yourself doing it and send that to me asynchronously. We don't have to do that together. Do it on your own time, and then send it to me, and then I'll give you feedback on it. We'll meet without the kid, and we'll talk about, okay, what do you think you did well there? And again, leading with questions rather than direct statements.
Yes.
Tell me, how would you do differently? How was that different from what you expected? Yes, exactly. It lets the reflection happen rather than feeling like demoralized or being told what to do. Like,
or being quizzed.
Yes, being quizzed.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love this. We could talk all day. I have a funny comment from Lucas Stuber, who we know and love, so I'm going to have to bring him on. So Lucas says, oh my gosh, I'm so used to online meetings and so used to talking to Chris and Mai Ling, both of us with exceptional ed, and you guys would talk with tech, that I just tried to unmute myself while watching and chimed in. That's hysterical. So Lucas, we're restricting you like Twitter. You had 280 characters. Thanks so much. We also have another question here from Brandy Wentland, and you know her from coming to Arizona. She said, I'd love to. Yes, she's awesome, and she's doing the We Speak AAC group on Facebook, if anyone's interested in joining us in that. She says, I would love to hear what Chris is seeing changing in the school system, a positive result from the challenges faced with the pandemic. Are we seeing assistive technology for all becoming more possible? That's a great question.
Oh, Brandy, and I would absolutely agree that the needle has it was moving in the positive direction. And then when the pandemic hit, again, another silver lining is that it leaped forward. And it's not necessarily assistive technology for all, but just technology for all, and really more inclusive design. And so you can kind of see behind here, it says, I know it's a little off screen, but it says technology supports design. That's what we saw teachers running into, is like, oh, wait a second. I'm not going to have my special ed teacher there to adapt my materials or make them. I have to create the materials that way.
Yes.
Okay, how do I do that? And
Right.
and there was a rush to the assistive technology folks that work in schools, or just technology folks in general, saying, I've got this problem. How do I make my stuff accessible to everybody? And that really will be a nice positive outcome, because we started to create materials that are accessible. So you're providing text, it can be read out loud. You're providing video, it has captions.
Yep.
And we're teaching people how to do those things so that the entire future will now be more inclusive. The next year, 2 years from now, when we are completely back into the buildings, and maybe we have continued virtual instruction, it'll be more designed universally for everybody.
That's it. And you know what? I just feel like you've coined this phrase, and I know it's been out there, but universal design. You've been talking about this for years, right? Isn't that possible? And I remember being like, what is that? Like, I had to go look it up. But yeah, and that's also the space that we're in with AAC. I think a lot of the great accessibility tools and things start out specifically, to help people, and then it just becomes, I love this word, ubiquitous, right? And people are using it. I mean, that's what we're doing with cognition. And actually, that brings me to my next question, if you're ready for it, and that is, what is next? So, as an expert in the field of AAC, Chris, I know that you've had so much exposure, and I know you're a lover of technology. So there's so many good things we can talk about. I know you and I kind of have that like nerdy background, so I brought something to show you. Are you ready?
Oh, great. Yes.
Okay, everyone, here we go. Does anybody know what this is?
That looks like VR goggles to me.
Little small ones, right? You've never noticed that I had them on. Yes. So this is Oculus by Facebook.
You look like Kylo Chan there. Yeah. So Oculus, I bet you could play some Star Wars with Oculus Rift, right?
It is absolutely amazing. And, this is in the world of virtual reality. And I know that we tiptoed into augmented reality. Lauren Enders is an absolute, expert in this. And she's the one who kind of showed us, a lot of people, this is how you can use this app and bring out language and all of that. And so, again, this is the space that cognition is in, is bringing together augmented reality, virtual reality, machine learning, and brain-computer interface into the space of AAC. So just wondering, what your thoughts are on this and how we can get this into our school systems and into universal design for all.
Sure. Well, so there's a lot to unpack there in 2 minutes, but let's talk about AR more than VR for a second. AR would be augmented reality, and the idea would be, if you play Pokemon Go, you know what that is. You can hover your phone, and there's a layer of digital reality over the real reality. And I feel like there's a lot of power there for AAC. In fact, I've heard rumors that Apple is working on, you've probably heard of Google Glass, but Apple's working on glasses that, again, rumors that would, essentially, you'd have glasses that you could hover over a surface and would provide this layer of digital reality. I guess think of it like an Iron Man helmet, if you will, right? Where he scans the bad guys and it gives them the details about them. Well, the same deal. Imagine looking at an array for AAC and you hover over it and it tells you what to model or what to do in a certain situation, right? That would be one practical aspect for AAC that I could see for AR. VR, I could really see training, really like autism. Put the VR goggles on and you have this experience in a safe place that then you could maybe translate over generalize into the real world, right? So a scenario would be like, put on the VR goggles and practice this job skill, or very timely, a police interaction, right? I know there's a company called Florio, but there's ones that are working on these experiences where you can practice this social situation. And you could say, okay, this is what would happen if you met law enforcement. What would you do in this situation?
Yes, so you're learning immersive experiences. Yep. And we're kind of seeing that in 2D already. I've seen a couple where you can go to a convention center and it would be like, this is what it looks like coming in the front door. This is what the concession stand looks like. So I've seen that out there, and you've seen that too. But this is on the nose exactly what we're developing at Cognition. So I can't wait to have these conversations with you and get your feedback and the feedback of other AAC experts to help us to continue to make this amazing in the technology that is coming. So thank you so much. But before you go, you have a really, really important question that I need to bring up. And
Okay.
This is by Rachel Madel. Do you know her?
Yeah, I've heard of her.
All right, I'll let you read the question.
It says, I have a question for Christopher Bugaj. Who is your favorite podcast host? Well, that would be you, Rachel Madel, of course.
Excellent.
The one, the only.
So you can find Talking with Tech on any of the major podcast platforms that you listen to. You can stream it. It is for free. And then they do have courses that you can listen to the podcast, and then you can go back and get the credits for the course. So I really highly recommend that you plug in to Chris and Rachel. They are amazing, just giving us content, education, information, and being so accessible. So thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure, Chris, having you, and I hope that we can connect again soon and we can talk about these new technologies coming down the pike.
Anytime. May the force be with you, May.
Thank you. You too. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to let you know that today's episode of AAC What's New, What's Next, our Facebook live chat, was brought to you by the SpeakPros app, offering an intuitive interface that allows people to express themselves using swipes, taps, and eye-tracking technology on the iPad. Find out more at speakpros.com, or you can contact me directly for a demo and to get professional access to SpeakPros Pro Plus. Thanks so much for joining us. See you next week.